Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about how I arrange harmony parts for three-part bluegrass harmonies. And just as in the last video, I'm going to use the example of the song Please Search Your Heart. It's a Pete Goebel song that was in Volume 3 of the Bluegrass Album Band. And this is a good example to use because the key that we were singing it in is the key of C, so it's pretty easy to play with on the keyboard. And it's got a simple melody. The melody actually begins, "Please search your heart," which is the first, second, third note of the scale, and then back down to the second. So do, re, mi, re. And so by starting at the first notes of the scale, it's pretty easy to come up with a harmony part and for it to make sense. So let's talk about that. So a few things with this song. It's also helpful when you're coming up with harmony parts to figure out what are the chords that are in the song. Okay, so a lot of bluegrass songs just have 3 chords, and Please Search Your Heart fits that pattern. So in the key of C, that would be C, F, and G. All right, so the 1 chord is C, the 4 chord is F, and the 5 chord is G. Okay, so I'm going to sing it one time through playing the chords, and it's important to know what the chords are because when you land on a different chord, there's only 3 different notes in a chord. In the C chord, it's the first, third, and 5th note of the scale. In the 4 chord, or the F chord, it's the first, 4th, and 6th notes of the scale. And in the 5 chord, or the G chord, it's going to be the 7th, 2nd, and 5th notes of the scale. And so when you land on a new chord, the 3 notes in the harmony part should be those 3 notes in the chord. Now there may be some passing notes in the melody where it goes up and down through the chord, but those other harmony notes largely are going to be the notes that are in the chord. So let's go through Please Search Your Heart chord by chord. So I'll start, I'll sing the melody here. Please search your heart and maybe you'll find a reason to stay. I'm begging this time. I know I was wrong, and darling, I've paid. Please search your heart before it's too late. Okay, so I'm just going to work through the very beginning of the song of Please Search Your Heart, the very beginning of the chorus. So it starts, please search your heart, and reminder that's 1, 2, 3, 2. So what should the tenor be doing when the melody is singing 1, 2, 3, 2? Well, it's a C chord, so the 3 notes of the chord are 1, 3, 5. So the tenor is going to be the harmony note immediately above the melody note. So if the melody note is 1, then the tenor has to start on 3. So 1, 3, please. So the tenor is going to start there, and the melody will start on 1. Please, please. And so where's the baritone going to start? Well, there's only 3 notes in the chord, so that leaves please, 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 please. So that's the 5th note of the scale. Now, depending on how you arrange it, you could have a high baritone, which is what I'm doing here, please, or you could have a lower baritone note, which is an octave lower. So there it would be please, please, please. So you need to start on those 3 notes of the chord. Okay, so the tenor is going to start on the 3rd note of the scale, and then the melody is going to move from the 1st note of the scale to the 2nd note. Please search your heart. Okay, so it's moving up to the 2nd, then to the 3rd, then back to the 2nd. So what should the tenor be doing there? Well, I've played around. You could do it a few different ways. You could go 3, 4, 5, 5. So you could go 3, 4, 5, 5. Or you could go 3, 5, 5, 5. So when you go 3, 4, 5, you're hitting a passing note there. Okay, so you're just moving up a half step from the E to the F and then to the G, and that kind of mirrors the melody, right? 1, 2, 3, 2. So you could go 3, 4, 5, 5, right? That mirrors the melody. So why though does the tenor land on the 5? So remember, the melody goes 1, 2, 3, 2. So it goes up and then it comes back down. But the tenor is going to move 3, 5, 5, 5. So it doesn't come back down. Okay, it stays on the 5th note of the scale. Now, why does it do that? Because there's a chord change there. Okay, so please search your heart. So when we land on the word heart, there's been a chord change. We have now gone to the 5th chord, to the 5 chord, okay, the G chord. So please search your heart and maybe you'll find. Okay, so we've got to pay attention to the chord changes. And so the tenor, the 3 notes on that G chord are going to be the 7th note of the scale, the 2nd note of the scale, and the 5th note of the scale. Okay, so the tenor is going to go, please search your heart, or the alternative is, please search your heart, but it's got to land on that 5th note of the scale because it's going to create that harmony, that G chord harmony with the melody. So that's the tenor. Well, what about the baritone? Okay, and I'm going to sing it as a high baritone here. So we already said the baritone needs to start on the 5th note of the scale, right? The melody starts on the 1st note, the tenor starts on the 3rd note, and the baritone's going to start on the 5th note of the scale. So what's the baritone going to do? Well, the baritone's going to have to move up pretty quickly because the melody note moves to the 2nd note of the scale, and the tenor moved up to the 5th note of the scale. So we can't leave the baritone on the 5th note of the scale because the tenor's already moved up to the 5th note of the scale. So please search your heart. So if the baritone stayed there, please search your heart, we'd be in unison with the tenor. So we need to move up pretty quickly on the baritone part. So what I think works best here is please search your heart. So we're going 5th note of the scale to the 7th note of the scale to the 8th note of the scale and then back down to the 7th. Okay? Please search your heart. So why does that work? Okay, so what we're actually doing there is we're doing the 1st chord, please search. And what that chord is, that's actually a 5 chord right there. That's the G chord. So the tenor is moved up to the G, the 5th note of the scale. The baritone is moved up to the 7th note of the scale. And the melody is on the 2nd note of the scale. That actually creates a 5 chord, which is a sort of passing chord. It's just here for one note. Please search. And then we're going to move the baritone up one more note as the melody moves up. So we're now on the 3rd note of the scale as the melody, the tenor is the 5th note of the scale, and the baritone is the 8th note of the scale. Okay, so, and then we're going to go back down. Remember, the melody moves back down to the 2nd note of the scale. And then the baritone's going to move back down to the 7th tone of the scale, and that's a G chord. So we're landing on the 5 chord. So please search your heart, and maybe you'll find. So once we make it that far into the song, we're actually moving to the 4 chord of the scale. That's the 1, the 4, and the 6. But that's really all I wanted to start, was just the first few notes of the song so that you could get an idea of how I would put together a harmony part. I know it can be confusing at first, but the thing that you really want to consider is we don't want to duplicate any notes, right? We want 3 notes in the chord. That's how many notes there are in a chord, 3 notes. You could have an octave, but in 3-part harmonies, we want to stay away from the octaves because they sound too much like a unison. Okay, so we want to stay away from octaves. We want to stay away from singing the same note, a unison, because then we're really not singing a 3-part harmony anymore. We're going to a 2-part harmony, even though there may be 3 voices. So we want to keep those 3 notes in the chord present throughout the song. So you've kind of got to experiment. It can help if you're using a keyboard, or maybe you pull out your guitar or another instrument and think about what are the notes in the chord, what chord am I playing, and what sounds good. So another way to really check this out is I usually work one part at a time. So once I know what the melody is, then I usually try to figure out, okay, what's the tenor going to be? Once I figured the tenor, I will record that against the melody. And if I record the melody and then I sing the tenor against it, hopefully I don't hear any unisons and I don't hear any dissonance, and the parts align and create a nice harmony. If I make a mistake, and sometimes that happens, where I'll find that I failed, one of my parts moved up and the other part didn't move up with it, so we ended up in unison, then I just need to go back and rearrange it and find the mistake. So those are just some thoughts on arranging harmonies in 3-part bluegrass harmonies. It's a lot of fun. There is some flexibility. There's some freedom, and that's part of the fun. There's no one way to sing a song. The melodies, you'll hear an arrangement sung by one band, and they'll sing the melody slightly different in the chorus than another band. And some of that may be to help make the harmony work and to make the harmony easier to sing. So there's lots of things that you can do, and that's part of what makes it fun. We don't want every song to sound exactly the same. Each band can give it their own little arrangement and put their unique stamp on the song. So those are just some ideas on arranging bluegrass harmony, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and we look forward to recording Please Search Your Heart. I'll be singing that with Dominic and Veronica in the next few days, and you can hear how it turned out, but we're still sorting out the parts, and hopefully you like it. Take care, bye, and remember to like and comment below and subscribe to the channel. Following up on that last lesson, I thought I would sing all 3 parts of Please Search Your Heart. So here's the melody. Please search your heart, and maybe you'll find a reason to stay. I'm begging this time. I know I was wrong, and darling, I've paid. Please search your heart before it's too late. So that was the melody in the key of C. Now I'm going to sing the tenor. Please search your heart, and maybe you'll find a reason to stay. I'm begging this time. I know I was wrong, and darling, I've paid. Please search your heart before it's too late. And now the baritone, and this will be a high baritone. Please search your heart, and maybe you'll find a reason to stay. I'm begging this time. I know I was wrong, and darling, I've paid. Please search your heart before it's too late.